Live from New York, it's Saturday night! Hello, this is Mr. Hornsby 3. This is the Mr. Hornsby 3 show, and today I am doing my reaction to the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special they did last night. I'm going to talk about things I liked about it, talk about things I didn't like about it, and then overall give my complete thoughts on it overall of how good of a show it was. But yeah. But before I do that, before I get into Saturday Night Live, I'd like to let y'all know I did do my wrestling figure event. Clash of the Figures this past Friday. And the reason why it's an hour long is because I added a match to it that I may or may not have, already built up in the build going to that freaking show. Because there was a show I did build up something for it, but didn't go back to it, and I wanted it to be a surprise on that show. So if you want to see it, go check that video out. I botched a couple times on the freaking video, though. But, I still did, I still overcame some things, but there's a few things that really got, screwed up with the video. Like, I don't know, somehow my son lost the commentator chair. And then I don't know what he did with the JR figure. That's why I had to use the Vince McMahon figure. Which, if you watch my old Facebook ones, I started with Vince McMahon and JR, and then I transitioned from Vince McMahon and JR to JR and Dusty Rhodes. But I had to bring Vince McMahon back. Also, I hope everybody had a happy Valentine's Day. I did not get a chance to say happy Valentine's Day during the freaking video Friday. So, hope everybody had a happy Valentine's Day. Me and my wife the next day went and had a Valentine's dinner together. So, yeah. That's we also watched My Bloody Valentine last Friday for, movie night. But, enough about all that. Don't forget, Wednesday I'll be doing the Cobra Kai review. This is the reaction. So, Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary had been advertised for quite a while on NBC and CBS and all that. And, I gotta say, it was more entertaining than the Super Bowl. Because the show was just great. I like how they kicked it off with Steve Martin doing an opening monologue, and which, like, golly, ever since I was a kid, Steve Martin has always been an old man. The only movie I think I've seen him in where he had hair that wasn't gray was the Little Shop of Horrors. He kicked off, he does a monologue, he made a joke about how that's one of the weakest parts of the show. Then Martin Short comes up. They're talking for a minute. And then he says, this is the only Canadian that wasn't on Schitt's Creek. And then Martin Short and him were talking about something else. And then he says, did you get your papers? Or did you bring your papers or whatever? And Martin Short's like, no. And then he tells the cops to get him. It was pretty funny. So let's get into some things I liked about the show after the monologue. So let's start out with the first sketch, which was one of those Frank Welk skits they do with Fred Amundsen. And this also had Will Ferrell in it. And honestly, I didn't care too much for this sketch. It was like kind of lame. The frickin' comedy in that sketch was dry. Until Kristen Wiig showed up on the frickin' thing as the girl with the weird hands or whatever. And I believe that was the character she's played over, back in the day on, when she was a cast member. But, I like, that's, Kristen Wiig saved that whole sketch because that sketch was just going nowhere fast. So then the next sketch, which I love this sketch, it was just hilarious. We had Black Jeopardy. And we had Leslie Jones, I forgot what her name was. I think it was Shanae, Janice or something like that. And then Tracy Morgan was playing some other character. I forgot his name. And then you had Eddie Murphy playing Tracy Morgan. I'll tell you what, the funniest part of that freaking sketch was just, Eddie Murphy just doing Tracy Morgan. He did a good impression of freaking Tracy Morgan, and he had Keenan laugh, he got freaking Leslie to laugh, and he got freaking Tracy Morgan himself to laugh. He even did a part where he's like, well, James Earl Jones is my daddy. He got my mom pregnant on the set of some movie. I forgot what movie he said it was, but it was just funny. I mean, it was hilarious how funny it was. Another thing I liked was the sketch with one of the cast members from 1975, where she's, staying on the stage a little bit longer and remembering all the time she freaking, all the great time she had on Saturday Night Live and all that. And then Pete Davis was, who was he? Like, I forgot what they called the guy. But Pete Davidson was there working on something. I think the guy's name was Chuck or something. And she calls him over to the stage and asks him to just keep her company while she's reminiscing all of her old times. And then there's a part where she freaking talks about how much drugs they were on the 1975 cast and, how much sex was going on. And she's, and then she's like, I probably would have been all over you even back then. And then, Pete Davidson strips down and he wants her to do him. But then she's like, but it's different times now. It's different times. So he puts his clothes back on. Yeah, freaking, it was pretty funny. And then he kept saying, all right. Or okay. Yeah, it was okay. Okay. There was even one point where I think he sounded like he said, oh gay or something like that, but yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. And another sketch I liked was the frickin' one where they have the frickin' prison, the guys from prison give motivation speeches to kids that might become future criminals. Frickin'. The funniest part about that was, Eddie Murphy, I think he's worked on the show when he was a host and all that. But he friggin' Will Ferrell was in this sketch with Kenan Thompson and Eddie Murphy, and Will Ferrell's just crazily funny. He would say some crazy stuff, and then, I guess he said something so crazy it got Eddie Murphy to freaking break on freaking. And I'm like, I don't think I've seen Eddie Murphy and his stints on Saturday Night Live ever break. Maybe Joe Piscopo might have got him too one time in the 80s. Another funny thing too is they had the sketch back to the Black Jeopardy where, we have Chris Rock come up and they're trying to figure out, and they had Saturday Night Live in a category. And somebody hit the Saturday Night Live category, and Kenan Thompson was asking what show has been around for a long time and is on every Saturday night live, and all that. And then they kept saying like Soul Train, and then Showtime at the Apollo, and what was the one Tracy Morgan said? I forgot which one Tracy Morgan said, but oh yeah, and Living Color. Oh yeah, right. The Living Color, I think, came out in the late '80s, and then lasted until like the early '90s, and then those shows were done. Which I loved in Living Color. But we also had Tom Hanks come on there and answer the question because they showed a picture of Dana Carvey as a church lady, and they're like, "Who is this?" And none of them knew who it was. And then Tom Hanks came on there. I guess a recent character he played on the show or something, and he said who it was. He's like, that's the church lady. Speaking of freaking Dana Carvey and Mike Myers, I'll get to Mike Myers in a minute. But yeah, the Black Jeopardy was one of my favorite sketches. I liked the one with the Pete Davidson. And I also thought the one with Molly Shannon was pretty funny too. Where, her, Martin Short and her daughter, which is played by one of the current cast members, was like renewing her vows with her husband. Then you had all these people coming back, you know, and you had her friends come sing a song and pretty much wondering why she was with the guy she was with, and then they kind of insinuated the guy was gay because he's, you know. So I don't know what the sketch was, but I know it was like Martin Short and Molly Shannon were playing husband and wife, and then apparently, I don't know, it was just funny. Then we had weekend update. So I'll go to the weekend update one, which I really liked that one. I didn't care for the Fred Armisen, you know, and them being best friends. They did have Seth Meyers come in, and then he's talking to Fred Armisen and the other person, and they're talking about how their best friend Lauren Michaels, and they're having all complaints about him and all that stuff. He's like, so you have problems with Lauren Michaels? And they're like, no, we're best friends. Oh, no. Best part was when Bill Murray came on there and he put his list of the best freaking Weekend Update host. And he freaking, for the black category, he only had one, which was Michael Che. Because, yeah, only one black cast member freaking host as hosted Weekend Update. And he picked out the rest. And then he's like, making Colin Jost think he was going to pick him at 10 or something like that. He's like, oh yeah, Colin, and then it was Colin Quinn. then he had Kevin Nealon, Norm Macdonald, Chevy Chase, Jane Curtin, Amy Poehler, and Tina Fey, Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey, and his final one was one of his brothers. And he made it so he was like, hey, he was sleeping with Scarlett Johansson. He wakes up every morning sleeping right next to Scarlett Johansson, and it was his freaking brother. It was funny. But when he put Tina Fey and freaking Amy Poehler above freaking Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey, he's like, you know, I looked on the internet, and, you know, Girl on Girl is still pretty popular. I freaking died laughing. Because that's true. It's freaking hilarious. Let's see, what was one of my other favorite ones? I like when they showed all the freaking old commercials, like the freaking colon blow commercial. And I remember watching this one live, the Oops, I Crapped My Pants commercial. When they did that, that was freaking hilarious back in the day when they did that. Also, they showed a couple other commercials. They had Alec Baldwin introduce that. Then they showed the physical comedy that a lot of freaking cast members did on it. They showed Chris Farley's, where, you know, he's that motivational speaker, and then he freaking jumps through the table. Then when he did the freaking sketch with Patrick Swayze, where they're doing, like, where they're Chippendale dancer. You got Patrick Swayze, who's, like, got this physique that's, like, I guess people could say that's a perfect physique. And then you got Chris Farley, who's big and heavy. Yeah, more people were interested in the Chris Farley one than freaking Patrick. That was pretty funny. Also, Adam Sandler sung a tribute to a lot of the old cast members that have passed away. I didn't get to catch that part because I was in the bathroom, but I'm pretty sure they got most of them. But anyway, let's go back to Black Jeopardy real fast, and I'll talk about some of the other stuff. But Chris Rock did come on. They had to, because they had another Saturday Night Live question on it. So they had Chris Rock come on there, and he's talking about how he was the black guy that came after frickin' Eddie Murphy had been on the show. Which was funny because I think the cast after the Eddie Murphy crew was done, I don't think they had one black cast member through that one. That was that year when they had the terrible years of Saturday Night Live, and then Lauren Michaels was like, well, we gotta get back to stand-up comedians, and we brought in Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, frickin' David Spade, all those guys. But yeah, John Lovitz survived that terrible season and freaking came back. They also had him in a sketch too, where he was like across the street because like they had Amy Poehler and Tina Fey doing a thing where they had a Q&A, and all the people in the audience were having questions, and Peyton Manning got up and said, "So is Lorne Michaels retiring?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "Good, don't ever retire. It sucks being retired." Then you had one where Ryan Reynolds asked a question about something. I forgot what he asked about. Then they also had a lady come up and ask about Tim Meadows, but he said, I guess it was one of the celebrity hosts or freaking one of the musical guests or something. And Tim Meadows came up and told him what he said. And then he said, but it worked because, I'm still married to her to this day. So no wonder we didn't get the ladies' man sketches anymore. Anyway, what else? I'm trying to think of other sketches they did. I thought the musical guests were pretty good too. Miley Cyrus and that one lady, Paul McCartney. The Adam Sandler song sounded pretty good. I heard it from the bathroom, but I just didn't get to see like all the people that were showing that had passed away throughout. But another one of the funny sketches on there was the one with Kate McKinnon where she's always talking about what the aliens do whenever they abduct her. And man, I'll tell you what, Woody Harrelson can play a good stoner. I tell you what, man. If he was younger and he started in a bunch of stoner movies, he'd probably freaking nail every single freaking stoner movie he's in. But Woody Harrelson and then some other guy who was a former host of that. Fudge. Freaking tired. But then they had Kate McKinnon have a mom. Her character has a mom who came in talking about it. I thought it was freaking Jane Curtin at first, but apparently it wasn't. It was someone else. So I'm like, okay. But it was pretty funny because her mom was pretty much saying the same stuff she was saying, but then she said some things that she wasn't saying. It was kind of different. It was the same but different. Which was freaking hilarious. I had freaking John Hamm from Fargo laughing, and Rose Barnes was starting to, or whatever her freaking name is. Not Rose Barnes. Rose something. She just left the show recently, so I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of the current cast, I haven't cared for the current stuff. The last time I really liked it was when the last time I really enjoyed Saturday Night Live was when you still had Will Ferrell and all them on the show. Speaking of Farrell, speaking of Farrell, Jay Farrell was there, but he didn't get no sketches, which was weird. They also did a sketch with Pete Davidson and David Spade where they were like talking about all the timelines that freaking New York went through. And like there was one point where they had freaking Kristen Wiig. Boy, they used Kristen Wiig a lot last night. Where Kristen Wiig's dressed up like the M&M candy, and they were talking about how she was a kid-friendly thing, but she's also a hooker. Yeah. And it was the green M&M they were making fun of because they make the green M&M the woman one. It was just funny. I'll tell you what, though. I gotta say, probably my favorite sketch was the freaking Black Jeopardy one. That was funny. I liked the freaking one with freaking Will Ferrell and freaking Kenan Thompson and Eddie Murphy. And Kenan Thompson was actually funny in it. I did not like the Fred Armisen one. Even though Will Ferrell tried to save it, he couldn't save it either. I think Kristen Wiig really saved that one. Then they showed a clip of all the stereotypical freaking sketches they've done over the years. And it has Tom Hanks talking about it, and he introduces them. And he's talking about how we should cancel ourselves because we're the ones that left. Which was pretty funny. And then they showed it all, like the sexual harassment guy and all that stuff. Another thing I liked, another sketch I liked, which was pretty funny, was Andy Samberg and Bowen Young. And Bowen Young and him were talking on the phone to start the sketch. And he's like, you going to the Saturday Night 50th? And he's like, no, it's too much anxiety and all that stuff. Then he freaking comes and sings a song about all the other Saturday Night cast members. And he talked about how they, how they had anxiety too. And then, like, every time they show, when he start talking about the anxiety, their face would be melting and looking like some kind of monster. It was pretty funny. They started it with Dan Aykroyd, then they did it with, fudge. They did it with a couple other characters that were, like, top people that came from the show. Which was pretty funny. But, it's like, he had anxiety, and it'd be like, and then the freaking the person would look like a freaking monster melting face. And they did it with one of the Dan Aykroyd popular sketches from when he was still on the show, where he was a salesman, and he was trying to sell some kind of food product. That freaking sketch. Speaking of the stereotypes, they did show John Belushi's freaking being the samurai guy. And all that stuff, so it was pretty funny. He had anxiety. She had anxiety. Yeah, I will say, there were some people on there that I think they could have done more with, like Adam Sandler, instead of just having to sing a song. They should have him do something else. But they didn't. Eddie Murphy, I would have liked to see Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood again. Like, I know they showed it when he hosted a couple years ago. He was right back into the thick of things with that character. Hey, I would have liked to see Buckwheat. Looking for Nub in all the wrong places. Looking for Nub. And Will Ferrell, I would have liked to see him and Sherry O'Terry do the freaking the annoying cheerleaders again. We also got a Debbie Downer sketch, which the funny thing about that was when freaking Robert De Niro comes in, and Debbie Downer's just being such a downer, and he freaking grabs her by the throat like he's a strangler. Jimmy Fallon and them's pulling him all off. And I'm like, yeah, I can see Robert De Niro really trying to strangle a Debbie Downer. if it was real life, he was listening to this person be a total Debbie Downer, he'd probably strangle the life out of him. I mean, Robert De Niro is a bad mofo. But yeah, one thing I wish they would have done on the show, but my wife said they did it at the concert, was frickin' the Tracy Morgan sketches with Lauren Michaels, where he'd be, where he'd be talking to one of the cast, one of the hosts, and the host be talking to him, and then he talks about this lady or something that with white hair that kept talking to him, telling him what to do, and like he wouldn't do it. And frickin', you'd have Lauren Michaels come in, and like the cast, the frickin' host or whatever would realize it's Lauren Michaels talking. And then Lauren Michaels would be like, come on, Tracy. And he'd be like, no, I ain't going nowhere now. Get my drink, bitch. I'm surprised they didn't have Tracy Morgan do that, but hey. That's what it is. I really would have liked to see a Wayne World sketch, but Dana Carvey wasn't there. Mike Myers was. He did the Butter Lady freaking thing with the Bronx Tales with Amy Poehler and, what's her freaking name? Maya Rudolph. Or not the Bronx Tales. It was like Bronx Talk or whatever it was. The Bronx Talk sketch them two did when they were main cast members on the show. And like, Mike Myers popped in with the lady and he talked about it's butter, and then he like starts getting viclimpsed, and he's like, I'll give you a subject. And then, he said the subject, it said, it's true but not true. And I'll tell you what, this was a pretty good freaking show. Honestly, I like it better than the 40th anniversary one. The 40th anniversary one, you didn't even feel like it was a 40th anniversary one. It was just like, I think, a standard show. This one, it felt like spectacular and big. It was even 3 hours long. It lasted from 8 o'clock till 11:30. And they did have Scarlett Johansson in a lot of the sketches as well that they did. Like the one with Will Ferrell and Fred Armisen. I've never really found Fred Armisen that funny. I mean, he's one of the people I did not care for during the current times of freaking Saturday Night Live. I'm like, he's lame. But Leslie Jones was pretty funny. Some of the other main cast members. I'm surprised they didn't have Chevy Chase do a bit on the freaking Weekend Update either, because I think when he hosted a while back, and I don't think he did any Weekend Update stuff there either. So, yeah. Wish they would have put, some of the other top names that came from the show, like the bigger stars. You saw Eddie Murphy in a couple sketches. You saw Will Ferrell in a few sketches. You saw Kristen Wiig in a lot of sketches. Scarlett Johansson showed up in a few sketches. She wasn't a cast member. She was a host, and plus she's with Colin Jost from the Weekend Update thing. Yeah, I wish we would have done more like with people like Chris Rock and all that, and frickin' John Lovitz and all that. I wish we would have done more with some of them people, but it's what it is. I wish they would have did more. Like I would have loved to seen Adam Sandler do something else. David Spade was in the sketch with Pete Davidson with the timelines of all the different timelines of frickin' New York City. Jimmy Fallon only got in one sketch too. Molly Shannon, she was in a couple. She did the old lady that was 50, and she would kick and do the splits and all that. And then she'd go, "I'm 50." But she didn't do it as like she used to do when she did that sketch back in the day. She kind of like be a little louder, like, "I'm 50." But yeah. And of course, my favorite, like I said, was Black Jeopardy. They also showed I also like the fact they showed one of my favorite Jeopardy skits where they had frickin' Alex Trebek, which was Will Ferrell playing them. Then Norm Macdonald was frickin' Burt Reynolds. Then you had Daryl Hammond as frickin' Sean Connery. Talk about, "I had sex with your mother, Trebek." And who else was the other character that they had play that? I don't know. Oh yeah, some goofy looking dude that Jimmy Fallon played. But the two memorable ones were frickin' Norm Macdonald as the frickin' Burt Reynolds, and then he said, "I'm Turd Ferguson." Daryl Hammond as Sean Connery. Kate McKinnon was in quite a few of the frickin' sketches too. Like she did the New York one because it turned out to be a song bit, and she dressed up like our former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani. Yeah. So overall, I did like the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. I know I jumped ahead through some things, skipped through some things, went back to things back and forth in the middle of other things I was talking about. But overall, I liked it. Thought it was better than the 40th. I loved the Bill Murray part where he just said that girl on girls line was just hilarious. So, yeah. Overall, I liked it. If I was going to review it, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. But, I was just giving my thoughts and reactions to it. Really enjoyed it. And, not many shows make it to 50 freaking seasons. Not many shows make it that far. I mean, you look at all the shows, whether it was sketch comedy shows, regular TV shows, like sitcoms and all that stuff, they've never made it to 50 seasons. The only thing you've seen consistently on TV as much as you have Saturday Night Live is probably WWE wrestling. That's the only consistent thing you've seen on TV every single year outside of Saturday Night Live. But overall, enjoyed it. I did like In Living Color a little bit better when I was younger, but then when I got a little bit older, I did start liking Saturday Night Live. But, I just wish, they would have done more with some of the other characters. And I know some of the people that were cast members passed away. There was also another sketch with frickin' John Belushi. It was from a sketch he did in the early days of Saturday Night Live where he's like, talking about everybody thought he was going to be the first one to die, which he was the first one to die of that cast. And then he's like at a funeral for the other ones like Garrett Morrison, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, Jane Curtin, and the other two ladies. And he said, funniest part was when he talked about how Jane Curtin died, and he's like, something went wrong with her cosmetic surgery. And he's like, the reason why I survived out all the other cast members is because I got the dance moves. But yeah. Overall, I liked it. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary show. Like this video, subscribe for more. Go check out my my freaking wrestling figure show that I did Friday. It's an hour and 8 minutes, and that's because I added an extra match, which I was planning on doing. That's why I built this one thing there, and you'll find out what thing I built that got resolved at that, you know, if you watch the build-ups, the earlier build-ups to Clash of the Figures. And if you guys watch more, I'll be, next one will be Wrestle Figure Mania. So if you check out Clash of the Figures, if it does pretty well, like Halloween Figure Havoc did last year, and Clash of the Figures does well, then you get Wrestle Figure Mania. And if Wrestle Figure Mania does good, then King of the Figures will be next. Oh, wow. Yeah. I bet, and then I'll probably be done with Wrestle Figure shows because I did. No, one more, yeah, because, like, yeah, Clash of the Figures was the first one. Then I'll do the Halloween Figure Havoc again. So if you watch all the Wrestle Figure shows, that's how you get me to do more of those. So I have you motivated to do them. Even though I enjoy doing them, they're fun to do, and you know. But yeah. Anyway, that'll do it. I also put on my Facebook fan page I also put on my Facebook fan page what I have planned for this week. So, the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special, which I'm just finished up today. And then Wednesday, it's going to be Cobra Kai, Season 6, Part 3. I'll talk about the finale of that and all that and what I thought of it. Then this Friday, I will do a playthrough of The World Is Not Enough, James Bond game. Then the following Friday will be GoldenEye. And then I'll probably go get into some wrestling games because it's Wrestle Game Mania in March and a little bit of April. I'll get into that, and then yeah, and then you'll see what goes from there. But yeah, catch you guys later and peace out.